Welcome back to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I'm Ed Helinski. We've got another great guest for you today. This gentleman is setting the world by storm in terms of high school athletics in the Western New York area. What he's done in terms of streaming with his website, Western New York Athletics, is nothing short of phenomenal. Please welcome the founder of Western New York Athletics, Frank Wolf. Frank, good to have you. Good to catch up with you again.
Pleasure to be here, Ed. You're way too kind. Thank you very much.
You've been way too kind to a lot of high school athletes and a lot of high school programs in the last several years. Western New York Athletics is just taken off by leaps and bounds. Before we get into that portion of it, for people who are not aware of you and familiar with you, give me the elevator speech on who is Frank Wolf and where did you come from?
Well, so I went to public school my whole life, except for 1 year at Cardinal O'Hara back in the early 90s, graduated from Kemmer West 93, did not play at the varsity level other than wrestling. I did some wrestling a few years at Ken West. I've been cut from any other team I ever tried out for, basketball, baseball, at varsity teams. So my high school sports career is very weak, but I always enjoyed going to the games and being a part or being around the teams. Just wasn't unable to contribute much, and if I did make the team, I was academically ineligible, so didn't really see a whole lot of action. But I enjoyed wrestling at Kemmer West very much. I remember going to North Tonawanda, your old stomping grounds, and wrestling there, and I can probably tell you all the lights that were on the roof of that gym. Spent a lot of time on my back there. I wasn't that good, but I enjoyed my time nonetheless. I went to ECC after high school. I probably should have taken a year or two off or gone into service because I was not a good student academically. I just never really took school seriously until it was too late, for the most part. But I got to ECC. I joined some clubs, and one of them was in radio because that was really what I was interested in. And I worked at the radio club there, did some interning down at 97 Rock, and at then it was 103 The Fox, and they switched over to the Edge. So I did some interning down there, which consisted of basically running errands and staying out late and drinking a lot of beer and making sure people got home safely. Which kind of cut into my time at ECC, and I received a nice letter from them telling them that I should probably think about dropping out. So I didn't actually even finish at ECC. I was going for communications liberal arts. But when I got to, interning at the radio station, I was doing anything but what I thought I wanted to, what I thought it would entail. I figured, maybe I'll be able to get on the air here. And it's not how it works. You have to earn your stripes. And not that I wasn't doing it. I just, I thought I was, I don't know. I kind of blew it there. It cut into my school. Like I said, my dad would see me come in at 4:35 in the morning and wondering, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I thought you were going to Eric Clapton concert last night. I'm like, I was. It ended at 11. I'm like, yeah, well, I had to hand out these drink tickets to get people to go back to the bar where the party was after. And after you go back to that bar and you turn in whatever tickets you didn't pass out, and, the people I was working for said, come on over and finish this pitcher with us. And next thing you know, I was finishing 3 or 4 pitchers. And then getting people home after that. And, I wasn't showing up for class. And so ECC said, get lost. So I did, and I ended up having to get a job in the real world. I lost my internship, and I got into, long story short, I got into logistics and supply chain, and I've been there since 98. I carved out a pretty good business from that. I have my own logistics and trucking business right now. I've had it for almost 10 years now. But I never gave up the dream or the desire to get into broadcasting and communications. I always kind of stayed with it, whether I was writing for different websites or my own blogs or what have you. I always kind of kept that fire going because I knew that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be Mike Harrington. I wanted to be Art Wander. I wanted to give opinions on the radio, and I enjoyed that stuff. So that's what I did. I would call Art Wander almost every day and annoy the hell out of him, and I would do the same with Chuck Dickerson and get ran off his show and loved every minute of it. But so somewhere around 2004, 2005, I started doing a little bit more blogging and pro sports, things like that. And then somewhere in 2011, 12, I started doing a blog called From the 300 Level when I got to go down and do Sabre games and Bison games and things like that. And I would write stories and rub elbows with the media types like the Mike Harringtons and those guys. And I became friends with a good guy named Dave Rickey, who was writing for the Tonawanda News at the time. And Dave was very gracious with his time with me, and I consider him a good friend and still is. And, there were other guys up there, but Dave was like a real gentleman. Took me under his wing, wasn't threatened by a blogger up there, was very gracious. And, I noticed that some of the papers that he wrote for were starting to die out. Tonawanda News. I delivered the paper for Tonawanda News when I was in high school. I saw they were going out of business and Dave was losing a writing gig. And I also recognized that high school sports wasn't getting the coverage that they deserved. Certainly weren't getting the coverage when I was in high school or when I was away. I lived in Maryland for a couple of years. And when I was there, I would always fall back to Buffalo News and read all this high school sports stuff, or I'd go on different websites and read about the Connolly Cup guys. Who are the Connolly Cup guys this year? Things like that. And when I knew Dave was upset about losing this Tonawanda News job, so I'm thinking to myself, I did a couple of high school hockey games and I did a football game on the 300 level, under the 300 level umbrella, and that seemed to do way better in terms of getting hits than anything else I ever wrote. I would do a Sabres game. I might get 100 or 200 people reading about it. Half of it's people I know, and I wasn't really getting any real followers from it. But when I would do a high school game, not that anyone knew who I was, but when I posted it and tagged the right people or the right schools, I would get a number of hits. People enjoyed it. Or maybe they just thought, well, someone's wasting their time here. Someone's doing a story on my son. Maybe, I'll read it and I'll share it with all my family. And people would actually print it out and hang it up. And like I used to do with Buffalo News articles. And my brother was in the Buffalo News a lot when he was playing baseball at Kemmer West. And I would, get excited when I saw his name in the newspaper. So I just thought that was starting to die out. We're going to have enough of that. And losing the Tonawanda News was going to be another wasted opportunity for these athletes not to be recognized. So I started doing more high school stuff and I talked to Dave and I said, Dave, I'm thinking about changing 300 level to more of a high school blog than anything else. I don't want to stop doing Sabres, but I know it's not as important as doing the high school stuff. So Dave and I got together and I said, Dave, let's start this WNYathletics.com. Let's go with it. And we did. And Dave was one of the first writers that we hired as on a freelance basis. But he gave us instant credibility. Dave did the Kenton area like no other. He knew all the coaches, he knew the players, the families. And when we would publish one of his articles, we would get a number of hits. So we started going to more games. Dave gave me the name of other guys that wrote for the paper that did sports, photographers. And we kind of got together and started doing articles on WNYathletics.com. And before you know it, we've got credentials to these events. People are starting to recognize who we are. I became very, very good friends with a guy named Dennis Sarro and Dick Gallagher and Lenny Jankowicz, and met these guys, these pioneers of high school sports in Western New York. Of course, we lost Dick. We've lost Dennis over the years. Roger Weiss, another guy. Roger Weiss, I would bump into at games. And he invited me into Inside High School Sports in WGR one day. Met Tony Caligiuri there. Next thing you know, I'm on Inside High School Sports every Saturday with Roger and Tony. And Roger became one of my best friends. And Tony's a good friend as well. We lost Roger last year. But those guys really enjoyed the stuff we were doing at WNY Athletics and all wanted to be a part of it. Dick Gallagher and I did a football show every Friday during the season, and I learned a ton from Dick. He was very good to me. And Dennis Sarro helped me get on the Connolly Cup to help choose the top football players in Western New York, and that was a real honor working with Dennis on that. And then just other guys would start slowly getting involved with WNY Athletics. Tom Prince, we were doing stuff for Orchard Park. Tom Prince would be there with his kid, and next thing you know, Tom is looking to join and do a lot of baseball stuff, similar to what Dick did for football. Tom was doing with baseball. So Tom Prince came on board, and next thing you know, he's doing color, and he's learning how to help me with the streaming and perfecting that. And, you know, that was like when Tom came on board, it kind of really changed us. It forced me to put more resources into what we were doing. It really changed the game for us, because now Tom and me are kind of one and the same. Anything I can do, Tom can do. And so Tom was able to take like a crew and go do a game here while I had another crew over here. And, you know, Francis Beck was involved. Francis was even here before Tom. In fact, Francis might have been one of the second or third guys we had on board, if not the first, because Francis was with me when I did 300 level. So I guess Francis was the first. But Francis would have a crew in Clarence. I'd have a crew at Amherst. Tom Prince would have a crew over in Lancaster. And we're doing like 3-4 streams a night. And it started to blow up. And, you know, we are where we are because of those guys. And, you know, our stream game needed help. So we're doing hockey one day at the Northtown Center. And there's this guy there doing Williamsville East hockey streams. And, you know, we're talking to him, and his name is Tim Gardner. And now he's here full time doing all of our graphics and perfecting our streams. And it's really amazing what these guys have done to help me get WNY Athletics where it is now. And then Stu Boyer retires. We get Stu Boyer on play-by-play. I was after him for years to get him involved. And, you know, it's amazing. This guy that you watched on the news, Channel 2 every night and on the weekends, is now sitting across from you calling a game that you're producing. And it's amazing. It really is. And the main thing is the focus, the mission statement from day one is we want to recognize as many scholastic athletes as possible, boys, girls, doesn't matter where they are in Western New York, from Olean and Jamestown all the way up to Newfane, everywhere in between. And I want to tell you, we've been to just about every single high school in Western New York. We've been to Cat Little Valley. We've been to Olean. We've been to Allegheny Limestone. We've been to Newfane, Pioneer. We've been all over Western New York. And the work we did with the live streaming caught the attention of this NFHS network. The former Section 6 Executive Director, Tim Slade, recommended to NFHS to talk to these guys at WNY Athletics. They're going to do a good job. They'll stream we want them to stream our championships. So we started streaming state playoffs. We did football. Since like 2017, I think we've been doing NFHS network. They sent us to Syracuse to do all the state championships for football. They had us going to Syracuse to do hockey. Basketball, that's where I saw you a month or two ago in Syracuse. They had us come out and do girls section 3 finals for girls and boys, and that was that's always fun. We've done lacrosse all over the state.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a hell of an elevator speech too. So, what entailed the decision to go from print to video? That's a big commitment.
Yeah. We don't have as much balance as we should. Number one, I want to see more written content on the site. The problem is we can't necessarily afford to send guys out and write articles at different games. We kind of have to pool whatever financial resources we have together and wait until we get to like the championships and finals. The daily recaps or like just doing a recap of a game, no matter the teams, doesn't really get it doesn't really attract a lot of people to read about it. It's usually just people from those two schools in that game specifically that are even interested in it. When you get to a playoff game, championship, you get more eyes reading about it. If we do a feature article, like we did one on the Lancaster quarterback years ago who tragically lost his dad, that went viral. That was a big story, feature story for us. Those kind of feature stories, feature articles do pretty good. And we have Jerry Sullivan, the former Buffalo News writer, doing a lot of those for us now. But everyone wants to see video. We're consumed with video. People are constantly watching YouTube videos. They're constantly, everything's video nowadays. Nobody wants to read anymore. There's just people lost that, wanting to read stuff. I couldn't wait to get the Buffalo News or the Tonawanda News or the Record or the Amherst Bee or whatever to read about what was going on in the community, especially with high school sports. I loved all that coverage. Miguel Rodriguez, who was a very good friend of mine too. I knew Miguel before WNY Athletics started. He was my goaltender. He played hockey with us for many years, and Miggy was a good friend of mine. In fact, when we were playing hockey, I had no idea he even wrote for the Buffalo News. He was with the Niagara Gazette at the time. I didn't even know he was writing for the Gazette. But anyways, it's easier to do the streams. Not necessarily financial. It's a little more expensive to do the streams, but they're a lot more fun. And more people are watching the videos than are reading the written content. But I still want that written content. It's a personal thing for me, because I think at some point it'll get back to the point where people may get tired of the video and want to read. I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping kids want to start reading about themselves again. We may not ever have the paper version of WNY Athletics. It'll probably always be the web version. But as you know, that's how the industry's going. If you want to read about the Bills game in the Buffalo News in the paper, you're not going to read about it until Tuesday because it's printed in Cleveland. You'll read about it online, but you're not going to physically have it in your hands to read the recap until Tuesday. So that's just the way it's going. Everything's digital now, for the most part. So how do we balance it? It's tough to balance because I don't have enough writers here and enough people willing to go out and sit through a game or find those feature stories. I was out just down in Jamestown earlier this week, and I probably could have done a recap of the Jamestown Sweet Home flag football game, but it was so one-sided. I ended up not doing it because I didn't want to embarrass the other school that just lost by 6 touchdowns. But I found a couple stories down there that I can use for a feature coming up, like the girl that plays quarterback at Jamestown. She's been the kicker of the varsity team for the last 4 seasons. I'll profit her. And now she's finally playing football with girls, and it's flag football, but she's the quarterback and she's got a good command of the offense, and it's a good story. Here's this girl that's been waiting to play football her whole life. Yeah, she played with the boys, but she wants to play with the girls too. And here she is playing flag football, and she's a star down there. So we found a story there. So we'll do something on her, how she's come around from playing with the boys and now being a captain of the girls team.
Girls athletics have come to the mainstream and almost probably equal to the boys right now. When did you start covering and doing video stream games of girls athletics in Western New York?
The same time we did the boys. We don't consciously. I couldn't do just boys. I couldn't. I'm surrounded by nieces in my family that all play sports. My niece Sophia is at Mount St. Mary's. She does softball. She does bowling. She does what is she doing? I don't even know what she does in the fall. But field hockey or something. But either way, we couldn't not do girls and just do boys. So we've done girls since the beginning, right off the bat.
Is there any between the two, a boys game and a girls game, which gets the bigger hits?
Well, the boys. There's no way to sugarcoat that. St. Joe's versus Canisius. I don't care what the sport is, that's going to do the best. The health sciences basketball team or football team versus city school or a private school, they do very well. Bennett, obviously, the football team does very well. We've done some St. Mary's of Lancaster O'Hara games, Nichols O'Hara games. Those were really good numbers for us, but they're not going to do the same. They did not do the same they don't even come close to like a Joe's Canisius game. But that you could see that could change at some point, or it could get a little closer. But, I mean, you go to a Canisius Joe's game, it's standing room only. You go to a St. Mary's basketball game where they're hosting O'Hara, it's a great crowd. It is a great crowd, but it's not the same. We just did Canisius Timon boys basketball with the kids, Jade Harrington's going for the record, Huntington. And there wasn't a seat to be had. It wasn't a seat to be had. You go to Buff State for sectional finals. You get two marquee teams in there. A couple years ago, we had the girl from Will South, the Gretchen Dolan. There's plenty of seats for a sectional final versus Hamburg. You got who's the coach from UConn? Gino Oriema's in the stands watching. I forgot the girl's name from Will South. I'm escaping me, but it's half full, and you got the coach from UConn there in the stands. So, the boys, not close.
Of all the high school athletics that you have done already, which sports haven't you done?
We made a decision we probably would never do rifle. We don't know anything about that sport. We made a decision we probably wouldn't be able to do that. Golf is another one. Too hard, too difficult to do it. We don't have the capability. So we haven't done golf. We haven't done rifle. We did do cross country at East Aurora one day, and I really wanted to try that again. We haven't done track and field. We've tested, but it hasn't come out. We haven't had good testing with any of the cross track and field yet. However, we are going to Will South next week to do another test. There's an invitational at Will South that we want to do, that we really want to do. So we're invested in hopefully having the right equipment and being able to pull that off. So we're going to try and do track and field. We've done just about everything else. We've done cheerleading, we've done gymnastics, all the stick and ball sports. But golf and rifle are two that we just haven't been able to do yet. We've done bowling.
Of all these sports that you've done, which ones give you the most, I'm not going to say trouble, but most challenges from a technical aspect in trying to stream?
Bowling's difficult. Bowling's extremely difficult because of all the lanes. We've tried doing sectionals a few times. We blew it this year. We didn't do any real bowling coverage. And it's not because we didn't want to, purely because we didn't have the right people to do it. I can't go do a bowling and call a bowling match. I don't know much about bowling. Yes, I like bowling. I enjoy it. I know what a strike is. I know what a turkey is. I know what a spare is. When you get into the marks and this and that, and I'm not good at math, so you don't want me on the bowling. And I don't know all the bowlers. I know the schools. I know the predominantly good bowling school programs. We didn't get a chance to do bowling this year, and I feel bad about that. We didn't do any writing on bowling. We didn't do any streaming of bowling, so that stinks. We'd like to, though, in the future. We should have done some bowling this year. Hope to pick that up next year. Bowling's a challenge because of all the lanes, and there's not a lot of room. You got cords everywhere. We've done the sectional finals, and it's just a madhouse in there. Pre-COVID and even after COVID, it's just there's people everywhere. You can't get from the lanes quick enough. You're in everybody's way. You're trying to do a service, and there's people there behind you that can't see their son or daughter because we happen to be set up right in front of that lane. So people are making comments at us, telling us to get out of their way, and we're like, well, we're streaming here, So that's a little difficult at times, and bowling's tough. Wrestling's not bad. We haven't had any trouble doing wrestling. I love doing the wrestling. Um, that's about it. The bowling's the tough one. I mean, the swimming and diving's been rough because it gets so hot in there. Sometimes in really cold weather, if we're working off of batteries, we'll lose signals. You know, equipment won't work properly because of the frigid temperatures. So just stuff like that happens.
How do you determine what games you're going to do?
It comes down to availability, who's available. You got to have a producer. I've got play-by-play and color guys coming out of, everywhere. I have a ton of play-by-play and color guys. We don't have a lot of producers. The guy that's got to get there and set up the laptop, set up the streams and all that stuff. That's a difficult job. It's not easy. You got to lug around stuff. And you got to make sure that, people can hear at home and people can see at home. And, that internet is not always the strongest. So you're constantly working with your hotspot. You're moving it around because not every place has Ethernet connections. You do games outside. They may not have the right setup. You're at a baseball game, softball, you're behind the fence and, you got to bring a tent because of the weather. The sun's shining down on that laptop and you can't see balls and strikes and you can't see that your stream's down because the sun's glaring on that screen. You can't see what's on it. And that's a challenge.
They tend to burn up as well too in the hot sun.
Yes, you got to have stuff covered. What determines really it comes down to availability personnel. And the producer is the number one job. You got to have that guy or girl that knows what they're doing. We're lucky. We've got some really good ones. We got Heidi Gunther, Dana Gunther, Francis, Tom can produce. I can produce. Tim Gardner does a lot of producing for us. You got to have producers. We need more of them. We're always looking for guys to come in or gals to come in and learn how to produce. We have a few coming in next week to learn how to produce. So that's good.
What kind of feedback do you get from coaches and athletic directors about Western New York athletics?
Love it. Great feedback. All positive. All positive. Can't thank them enough for the support that they give us. They're tremendous individuals. They're under a constant pressure. They're constantly being attacked by their parents, under constant pressure, not just to win, but to make sure that little Jimmy has enough time and little Sarah gets all her minutes. And if not, they're calling the AD in the morning if she doesn't get her ice time or her court time or whatever. Those guys and gals that are athletic directors and coaches, my heart goes out to them. They're the heroes. Them and the officials. The officials, positive. We love recognizing the officials for every game we do, but for the most part, it's always positive.
Do you get any chirping from parents regarding?
Every day. You got a bunch of last night.
I mean, chirping parents about you're not mentioning my kid or you're not showing my kid on the stream?
Not necessarily. It's the pronunciation.
Okay.
We don't always get phonetic spelling. Last night we did a flag football game. One team put their roster in, the other one didn't. So Stu's out there doing a game and Stu's a pro. Stu wants those rosters days ahead of time so we can go up and down. If the coaches don't respond or put their information online, we get nothing until we get there. So Stu had maybe half an hour, 40 minutes to learn names and numbers and spelling, and he got confused a little bit. And so I got some lady Facebook messaging us left and right, this, that, I paid money, I did this. Okay, you try to fix it the best you can, but you get the online assault, the online keyboard warriors coming at you. And why are you here? Why didn't you do this game tonight? We're not ESPN. We're not a big multimedia company. We're a lot of people. We're mostly individuals who have full-time jobs, full-time careers, families, children, and we're giving you whatever extra time we have. We encourage more companies to start, not just in Western New York, but throughout. It doesn't take a lot to do the stream. It doesn't take a lot, but if you want quality and this, that, and the other, yeah, you're going to have to focus. But we get parent complaints just about every time we do a stream. You can't make everyone happy. You do a stream, I can't find it. Where is it? Or I can't hear. When we get to this field or the ice arena or the court, we do all the checks, the mic checks, this, that, and the other. We go live. A lot of times, you go live before and you're checking things. Everything sounds good. And then sometimes, for whatever reason, Mother Nature takes over and something goes down. And you got to quickly get it back up again. Or there's times people are screaming and yelling, they can't hear. And we're like, well, is your volume on? Turn your volume on. We're live. We can hear. We know it's working. Someone in the studio is double checking and they can hear and see. And, would you check your volume? Oh my goodness. Yes, that's what it was. Or I can't find WNYathletics.com. I can't find your YouTube page. What's YouTube? Some things you just can't help. You just can't fix for others. I can tell you a lot of the times it's user error. How do I know this? Because I make a lot of mistakes and I make a lot of errors, and I know if I'm not hearing the broadcast, it's because I probably didn't turn the volume on, or there's something on my end. So.
Do you consider yourself to be a perfectionist?
No, but I know the guys that do these broadcasts, a lot of them are. The last thing we want to do is look bad or make a team look bad or a broadcast. We want it to look like ESPN, we do. But none of us went to school for this. None of us are professionally trained. I mean, Kevin Sylvester's a good buddy of mine, and he helped us at the beginning, like Paul Peck, and they gave us what time they could. But, these guys can't follow us 24/7. And if they wanted to pick on every little thing we did, they'd be here for days, because we know we make a lot of mistakes. But again, we have other lives, other responsibilities. When we get to a field, just know we probably put 2 or 3 hours worth of work into it before we ever got there. Learning names, getting graphics done, making sure we got all the equipment, driving to the event, setting up the event, putting it all together. It takes a lot. It's not just, you can't get there 5 minutes before, hit start, and there you go. You got to get there an hour early at least. And you got to have someone let you in the press box. You got to make sure everything's ready for it. You can't make everyone happy. I
maintain that, from my standpoint, with radio, the toughest game to call is a blowout. Does that hold true with your video games as well too?
That, and if there's a severe rain delay, that's troubling. That's trouble, because you have to have stuff to talk about. You can't just go dead. So we'll, especially during the football year or baseball, softball, we'll make sure that there's something to talk about. We'll talk about who are the top hitters, top fielders, who are the top rushers, quarterbacks. We'll have content. Last year down at Jamestown, Jack Cruiser was doing a game with Pat Cauley, and there must have been a 2 to 3 hour delay, and Jack was ready. They opened up that Booster Club magazine, and they were just rattling off information, and they had a great time. They did a great job during that 2 hour. And, at one time there might have been 200 people watching. You would think with the rain delay it would go down to like 3 or 4 people watching, just checking in periodically. They maintained 100 plus because they were entertaining.
This stuff costs money to produce.
Yep.
Let me ask you, how is the local business community? Have they embraced Western New York athletics, or what has been the feeling about that from business?
It's been disappointing. It's been very disappointing. There are companies out there that have helped us. Western New York Media Care, we can't thank them enough. They've been very gracious. They've been with us for at least 3 years now. Logistics Plus is my trucking company. It's, I'm an agent of a corporate office in Erie. They don't pitch anything, and that's all out of our pocket. That's money I could be using to hire additional employees for my trucking company. That's money I could be using to give people raises. That's money I could be using to take a vacation. But no, we put it into WNY Athletics because it's the right thing, and and the show must go on. I'm not scaling back. We're pushing forward. We need more help from the business community. There's sponsors out there. We've had some really big ones that said, we're only going to do this. That's all we can do. And, hey, we won't say no to anyone. We appreciate anything that we've ever been given to help us do this, but we need more support from the business community. We know that they have, they need to advertise. We had 2 million views through the winter season. Those numbers we're doing are very good. And, we see what they give to other companies and other larger media companies. And Tom, who worked in sales for WGRZ, says, Frank, you guys, we're hitting the numbers. We're hitting the numbers. The problem is we don't have a marketing company behind us. I'm running another business entirely. Tom's got another company. I can't be marketing WNY Athletics Monday through Friday during business hours. I have another business. I have other employees that depend on me to make decisions about the trucking business. So if there's a marketing company out there, I'd love to talk to them, but they want the world to do it, and we don't have that kind of capital to do that. So it's growing. It's not growing as fast as we'd all like. One day we'll get there. We want to be Empire Sports Network, if you remember.
Right.
That's what we want to do. We want 24/7 high school sports or Western New York sports. And we would include the colleges in there, the D3s, the JUCOs, give them some love too. High school athletes that go on out of state, we want to be able to continue following them and continue letting Western New York know about how certain athletes are doing that left the area. We'd like 24/7 programming, and we'd like to have talk shows. We'd love to have an early morning sports center show where, we get all the film and the video from the night before, put it into an hour-long show in the morning. This is the Western New York Athletics sports hour, and just have coaches from the night before give their feedback on the game, just like you see on SportsCenter. We would love that. And then during the day, we can show games that we showed the night before, weeks before. We can show state championships that we had, and just constantly have programming. And it's all based around high school and collegiate sports. That's what we'd like to have.
What's your vision for Western New York athletics in the next 5 years?
That's it right there. We want 24/7 programming devoted to Western New York high school and college sports. That's what we want. But I need...
Any thoughts about going across the state into the different sections?
Yes. I'm sure you know who Mark Adair is, who started his High School Football Weekly magazine for many years. He did a great job with that, and he wants to get back into it. We took that over for him a couple of years ago because he needed a break. I hear he's coming back. Whether he comes back or not, we're going to continue on that magazine. We'd like to have it for Section 5, Section 3, and all the way down through Long Island. But we want to have an all-encompassing website that brings in stringers and different writers from different areas to weigh in, and just, have like New York State High School Sports.com or something like that. And, you just pick the section or the private school conference or whatever, and you can just read all about, here's all the articles, similar to New York State Sports Writers, but with video and even more in-depth reporting. I would like to see the state have one massive website they use for all their sports, so everyone can talk to each other. So when we get to regionals and state finals, you can pull rosters, you can pull information that much quicker. There's certain sections that want nothing to do with it. Old school coaches do not want to share information. They're way behind the times. Huddle cameras are everywhere. We knew, the star quarterback from Waverly, Joey, 4 or 5 years ago. These coaches, and Coach Miller out there is a great guy. He's the best. Waverly, I'm not picking on him at all. I'm just saying you can't hide players anymore. There's too much information, too many cameras out there picking up in social media. Kids are on that all day long, sending out their huddle camera videos. So you can't hide anybody. It doesn't matter the sport. The video's out there, and people watch those videos and they get their information, and we know what players we need to watch and pay attention to. And so do coaches. Coaches are constantly sharing video with each other. But some coaches don't want their stats on there. All it's doing is hurting the kid.
Well, yeah, that's I've had one coach as well too, didn't like videos posted on our YouTube channel, the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel, because he felt that the opposing coaches could get an advantage. And I go back to the days of George Vetter, and it says everybody knew what NT was running. Same thing with Jules Yakupovich over at Kenmore West. Everybody knew what was coming at them. It was just a matter of you having to stop them, or you steamrolling them. So I never bought into that. I think you're right when you talk about video is everywhere, and if you don't have it out there, you are hurting the student athlete. There's no doubt about that. Let me ask you this. Frank, we've talked about a lot of different things here this afternoon so far. What would you like to talk about that I haven't brought up?
I appreciate all the media all the high school coverage that's out there right now. It's not easy. I know budgets are getting tighter and tighter. So any kind of high school coverage these kids get is good. When I saw you in Syracuse a few weeks ago doing radio, I actually felt really good about that. I'm like, this is great. Here's station for, it's Auburn, right? You were coming for Auburn?
Correct.
So I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. They're getting radio coverage. You know, I didn't even know that they had that out there. I kind of knew, but I wasn't sure I'd see you, and here you were. And that was a long day. And you called did you call every game?
No. I was only there for the Auburn game, but
okay.
You had the long day. I mean, because you did all those championships, and you might have been on the floor as well too in the SRC arena, and then flopping between that and the gymnasium at OCC as well too. So it's a lot of fun at that, but it's a lot of work doing it at that point.
Yes.
We didn't have too many schools from our area that made it to the final, so that's unfortunate. But it's always a good time. And you were easy to spot when you said West had WNY Athletics on your hoodie, and you looked at mine, and I'm wearing a North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame Hall of Fame hoodie as well too. And then we got talking. It's just like, yeah, we know each other, from afar, but It's good to get to know you and have a chat with you. One final thing: what did Dick Gallagher mean to you?
Oh. He meant a lot. The first, everyone knows Dick Gallagher, right? Everyone knew Dick Gallagher. The first time I talked to him, I was at a Will North Niagara Wheatfield football game. It was like week 1 of the season, and I knew exactly who he was, but I never approached him because he's Dick Gallagher, and I don't want to waste his time. And here I am, just writing articles at the time. I didn't think anybody knew who I was, but he's motioning me he's on the other side of the fence. I'm on the field. He's not even on the field. He's just on the side of the fence standing up. He's waving over to me in the Red Sox hat. And I'm like, of course I'm going to go over and talk to him. Dick Gallagher's asking for me. So I went over and talked to him. He goes, I appreciate what you're doing for high school sports. I'm like, thank you very much. He goes, Fred, isn't it? And I'm like, well, it's Frank. And he goes, we got to get together. So I'll tell you real quick. I reached out to him by email and I said, hey, let's set up a meeting at Tim Hortons on Sheridan and Sweet Home Road, which I knew he liked to go to before he went down to WGRZ. I had written down like 10 o'clock and he had 9:45. So he gets there at 9:45 and I didn't walk into like 2 minutes to 10 and he's walking out and he's fuming, thinking I stiffed him. And hey, Mr. Gallagher, how you doing? He goes, 9:45. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I had the time down wrong. He goes, let's reschedule. I got to get down to channel 2, but let's reschedule. I'm like, okay. He did reschedule with me. He got together with him. He didn't hold it against me. I just had the wrong time down. But anyways, Dick, what he meant to me, everything. When he agreed to come and start doing stuff with WNY Athletics, he opened up so many doors for us. And, we were there with him all the way to the end. And what he's done, you can't ever do what Dick Gallagher did for these kids. You can only try to emulate it. He had that banquet for many years. We took over the banquet. WNY Athletics officially hosts that banquet in Dick's honor now. Because that's something he asked Tom and I to continue even after he was gone. He said, guys, I need you to keep this going. So we made a promise to him there that we would, and we are. Dick meant the world to us. And actually, you can't really see it, but there is a, well, let's see, there's Dick right there. Right. There's Dick right there. And we got, there he is right there. His Red Sox quarter zip, but we have a big portrait of him in the corner. Once we have our studio done, it's actually being painted next week, and we're going to have this all redone. There'll be a nice portrait of Dick Gallagher in the studio, and there's also one of Roger Weiss, and there's one of Miguel Rodriguez. Those guys meant a heck of a lot to us. Dick was great, fantastic individual, and what he gave to Western New York athletes, second to none, the time and effort he put in. So, great guy.
Frank Wolf, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on Western New York athletics and bearing your heart and soul on what you do. It makes a difference.
Absolutely, Ed. I thank you for inviting me and letting us tell the story.
Frank Wolf, thank you. Enjoy.
My pleasure.